Welcome to another episode of Relatively Damaged Live. My name's Angela.
And I'm Kat.
The live shows are currently streamed on Mondays to Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Remember to follow or subscribe and share with your friends. On the Monday segment of our show, Kat and I discuss topics we find interesting for about 30 minutes. So let's get to today's topic. Wow, do we have a doozy today, huh?
Yeah. Loving me some Adam Grant lately.
Yeah, so we figured out how to get the quote up on the screen. So I'm going to put it up there and we're just going to have fun with it.
Okay.
Okay, wait, I have to lean this way so we can see each other.
That's right. I got to lean this way too.
Hi.
Okay. So the quote reads, "The scarcest resource in life is not time, energy, or love. It's attention. Succumbing to distractions is a decision to lower your cognitive, emotional, and social intelligence. Concentration is a precious commodity. Your most important priorities deserve your undivided focus."
Okay, that is a quote.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm distracted today, but I want to know what happened with you when you saw this particular quote.
Well, it jumped out at me. I pulled this up and it was just like, whoa, because it is so true. Being a person who with ADHD already is bad enough. And
what do you mean by bad enough?
Well, it's just a condition that I have where my mind is going in a lot of different directions at once in and of itself. You add on the distractions in society today. I mean, social media, television, radio, all of those kinds of things. And it just makes it so much easier to give in to a wandering mind. So I think Angela might be frozen right now. So I hope we are streaming. But that succumbing to distractions is really what I think we are doing as a society. And okay, we lost Angela. I hope I'm still live in the show, and I hope she gets back on shortly. So succumbing to distractions, it says, is a decision to lower your cognitive, emotional, and social intelligence. So I think as we're giving into those distractions, we are really giving into our worst instincts. So our cognitive distractions is that we're not concentrating on what we need to concentrate on. I know I've always had difficult writing papers when I was in school, and things like that, where I had to spend a significant amount of time and mental energy focusing on that the exercise of completing that paper, and the mental thought in order to get a thought down on paper was the distraction. And so now that I'm living in an age with social media and the cell phones and the constant distraction of that, it would make it all the much harder to be able to do that. And I hope Angela gets back on live. I'm not sure what's going on here. So I'm just going to continue talking about it, and hopefully she'll join us. She just sent me a text message. She's trying her hotspot. So I'm gonna send her a quick message and let her know that I'm still on. So hopefully she will be joining us back momentarily. Um, Now the emotional distraction is, I think, is a really interesting issue, um, insofar as that we are thrusting ourselves from one emotion to another, depending on what we're seeing. And there's Angela; she's back!
Yeah,
Yay!
a big storm out here. Thanks for your patience, everybody.
Yeah, I think I was still on, so I just kept it going. I was like a little bit lost there because I didn't expect that.
Surprise!
And so anyway, so I'm glad you're back, and now we're switched back again to our usual spots.
Yeah, because we can't have that on top of crashing in the middle of a stream. But so where were you?
So I was just talking about my ideas about the perils of succumbing to distractions. So I'm gonna throw it back and get you in on here. So I read the quote, and the middle part of it says, "Succumbing to distractions is a decision to lower your cognitive, emotional, and social intelligence." And that decision and what that means. And
so the decision to this decision to succumb.
No, it's a decision. By succumbing, it's a decision that you're going to lower your cognitive, emotional, and social intelligence.
Okay. By making that decision to succumb to it instead of letting it just kind of go by. Okay.
Well, I think that's an outcome. It's an outcome of succumbing to distractions.
Right. I'm just trying to think of like in a social environment, right? And I've been to plenty of networking events where, it's like you kind of finish a conversation over here and it's just time to move on. But maybe that's a bad thing, or maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. In that situation, I need to sometimes move on, I think.
Yeah, that's the nature of it. I was thinking of it more in terms of what we do in terms of like I use the example of cognitive intelligence. I was talking about how difficult it was to write papers for school.
Right.
Because I was not able to concentrate enough to really be able to get the message that I needed in order to get the grade out. And it took a lot of mental energy because I was so distracted.
Right.
And then talking emotionally, this was I did just started talking when you came back in. I think it's interesting because we get into this thing where it's almost like we're at sea, in the sea of emotions, and depending on which way the distraction leads us, be it a discussion on politics or religion or whatever, anything that could trigger you as per se, or even just hey, look at this funny cat video on TikTok. It could just be,
isn't the funny cat video on TikTok sometimes what's needed to relieve the stress of, like, if there's a stressful conversation, like sometimes that distraction is also, I think, very important too.
Absolutely. But here the thing is that, so let's say you and I were having a difficult conversation. And we've had some difficult conversations. And in those difficult conversations, one or the other of us will always lighten the mood in some way.
Right.
And so is the distraction of the cat video really needed?
I think sometimes it might be. I mean, sometimes in the midst of that heavy conversation, that distraction can be helpful. It's like for 2 seconds, as long as we go back and, like sometimes I know, like the emotions get so strong that shifting the focus for just a minute and then come back to it. I think the trick is coming back to it. Yes, we had that distraction, it relieves some stress. Now we're back to the conversation at hand. And sometimes that distraction was enough that we can now work through what we couldn't even see the solutions before. And maybe now we can, is kind of my thought.
And I think you pose a valid point right there. It's like I said, being on the constant riding the wave of different emotions, being in a sense, I'm thinking like of advertising culture almost, as if that's the way we get bombarded with messages. Is one time you're crying because the guy came home and they're making coffee for his parents because he came home at Christmas, and then in the next one it's a funny cat video, and then the other one it's you're seeing all the sad dogs that need to be rescued, and then it's a something else. So it's just throwing your emotions on and off, and uh, it's distracting you from what you're really feeling and what's really important for you.
Mm-hmm.
While yes, it's great that the guy's coming home for Christmas and he's making coffee. It's pulling at that heartstring because they want to get you to buy coffee. But when you have this capricious kind of pulling you in these different emotional directions, you don't have your emotions aren't centered in yourself. Your emotions are centered in something outside of yourself. And they're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what
Right.
it's talking about there. And then the last part of that middle thing is the social intelligence. So again, it's, are we knowing ourselves? Because
Right.
we're so distracted by everything on the outside.
No,
And
that's
if we
really
don't know
interesting.
ourselves, can we really be social with others? I just wanted to finish that thought.
Yeah, no, that's great, because it's really interesting that we're talking about this today, because early when I had this conversation earlier with my caregiver, we hadn't yet decided on which topic we were going with for the show today, and we were talking about just the amount of noise in the world. So is it just like all of the commercials, all of the shows? Then there's music that's always on. And I think what we were talking about, gosh, it was something, because I had been in a meditation class yesterday, and they had said how they had more time a long time ago, or they didn't have as much time to do things a long time ago, hundreds of years ago, and today we have more time. And I kind of chuckled, and I thought, well, maybe they had more time to walk and to meditate, and but they also had that silence that we don't have today, that quiet. It's interesting because I meditate many times without sound, and for the month of December I committed to doing a meditation that there's very clearly sound and words, and it's actually, I found it difficult to find that peace again. So, and that's where distractions come up. Now, the other thing I think, since we're on the topic of distraction, is that we've got 5 dogs in the house. So if anybody walks by the front door or goes out, anyone outside, the dogs start barking. Can I stay in my meditative state when that happens? So I've actually started using that as a tool to practice. Am I going to let my peace be disrupted? Or am I can I stay in this place of peace even though there are distractions? And it would be really easy to open my eyes and check it out, right? So I think in that case, then I don't want the distraction, right?
Well, here is the next part of the quote. Concentration is a precious commodity. So you are using the concentration that you're developing through the meditation in order to be able to work through the distraction.
Mm-hmm.
So you are, in a sense, controlling your reaction to the distraction, not letting the distractions control you.
Okay. Right. So in one situation, we might need it. We might need the distraction. The other situation, it's can we let this, and it just, as we're talking, I'm thinking about like heated conversations where the distraction might be the other person's emotions. That,
Mm-hmm.
let's say they're dysregulated or
Yeah. You're cutting in and out a little bit. I guess we're just going to have to chalk this up to the storms. But let me see if I can. I don't know if you can hear me or not, Angela, but I'm going to guess what I think you may have said about the dysregulating emotions being being a distraction in a conversation and trying to move a conversation forward, and how that could get you away from your focus. And we lost Angela again, in order to try and overcome that conversation. Well, this is certainly an interesting development that we have, that we certainly haven't accounted for before. So, and there she's back again. I kind of summarized what I thought you probably said, but I couldn't really hear you. So maybe you want to briefly recap what you said just to make sure we're on the same page.
Well, I was distracted, and so now I forgot.
You were talking about dysregulating emotions, how if you're having a heated conversation.
Oh, yeah, how then it's harder for me to stay on topic. So, it well, not even just me. If I'm having a conversation with someone and they're dysregulated, not able to have like a calm conversation with me, that is very distracting to me. I pick up on the emotion versus just addressing what's happening. So for me, that's difficult.
I think that's
I don't.
difficult for most people. I don't think it's an easy path to forge for anybody when you're dealing with somebody who's in the throes of their emotions and you're trying to have a rational or calm discussion and the other person is, like you say, dysregulated or anything like that. I've had lots of experience with that. Unfortunately, uh, most recently last night, but that's a whole other story. So I think you're cutting out again. But the last sentence is your most important priorities deserve your undivided focus. And so the question is that I think if we do not want to succumb to distractions, how can we make sure that we give our most important priorities our undivided focus? And how can we get those things back on track when we're dealing with those distractions, be it a distraction such as social media or something like that, or somebody with dysregulated emotions?
Back if you can hear me. I'm not sure.
I can hear you just fine now. I don't know if you heard anything I said.
Absolutely not. What a great example of distractions.
This is certainly a distracting conversation. I mean, I'm having this conversation with myself here, and hopefully the audience can hear me. I don't know.
Maybe you guys, we love you as an audience. I think you're absolutely great. I know Kat does. I'm
Absolutely.
thinking we maybe say we love you, and let's not let these distractions continue. We want to be a distraction in a helpful way.
By all means, yes.
Yeah.
So are you saying maybe we should just give in to the technology glitches to the storms of the storms?
Yeah, we've got terrible wind and storms, and I would love to stay on and continue this conversation, but yeah, like right now you're frozen on my screen, so here. So if you're cool, we'll just go ahead and do the closing if you're cool with that.
Trevor says, I feel like an audience of one.
He is. We've had 2, 3, 4 in and out, and I think we just keep losing people. So, yeah. So anyhow, so are you ready for me to close then, Kat?
I'd say we toss in the bucket, we give into the distraction, and maybe we'll pick this up in some future episode.
When there's no storm.
When there's no storm.
Okay. There is also a relatively damaged podcast where I interview amazing guests who've overcome some found hope and healing. You can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and many more. I'm Angela.
And I'm Kat.
I thought I lost you. Next week.